Okay, thank you, Ben. Okay, so we made it here to the launch of our BIPOC Farmer Care Fund, which has a project that has been 3 years now in the making. And it's, yeah, our new mutual aid project for the Northern Illinois Young Farmers Chapter. So you could go on to the next slide, Jeannie. Yeah. So a synopsis, as it says here, the Farmer Care Fund is a pilot project. It's the first time we're doing this, and it exists to support the mental, physical, emotional well-being of Black, Indigenous, and people of color who steward land and feed the communities across Northern Illinois in our region. You can go to the next slide. Yeah, so this fund we created 3 years ago and um, mulled over how we can support farmers in this region, specifically BIPOC farmers, hold so much enormous physical, spiritual, and emotional labor, often without the rest, resources, and support that they deserve. And a big theme in our chapter is believing that care is a collective responsibility, and that is where this fund um, came out of in that care. And um, yeah, all farmers need to have this rest and to have this care and for it to be held in everyone. And so this fund is not about exclusion, it's about intentionality. And so it's our chapter's way of practicing repair, of moving resources with trust and honoring lived experiences and redistributing that care where it not has not historically flowed. So that's why we chose our Farmer Care Fund for Black, Indigenous, and people of color farmers, farm workers, and farm laborers because of really the very real histories of present day realities of exclusion, dispossession, and harm in agriculture, from land theft to systemic barriers and racism in funding and support. And these impacts aren't abstract. They live in bodies and lineages and everyday working conditions. So rather than approaching this from a place of scarcity or division, we root this in a practice of restorative care. And we believe that tending to those who have been impacted with this harm strengthens the entire ecosystem. Like in the pond, all the all the little things in the pond need to help support that one water lily bloom. And so when farmers, specifically BIPOC farmers, are resourced to rest, heal, and thrive, that care, it ripples outward into the land and into the food that we eat and into our shared future. Next slide. So, yeah, a lot of inspiration for this fund was rooted by the work of collective care and rest as resistance by Miriam Kaba and Trisha Hersey. So I want to share this quote by Trisha Hersey that I will read now. You were not just born to center your entire existence on work and labor. You were born to heal, to grow, to be of service to yourself and community, to practice, to experiment, to create, to have space, to dream, and to connect. And that is a wonderful part of Trisha Hersey's work, Rest as Resistance, the Manifesto. If you haven't not read it, I totally recommend you go to the library or ask a friend for their copy, because not only does it have so much wonderful knowledge and great internal work, but reading it feels like taking a nap in a strange way because your brain is working, but it's such a restful experience. Um, yeah, but it was a big inspiration in a lot of our chapters work and specifically in this fund. Yeah, so next slide. So going into the logistics of the fund itself. The Farmer Care Fund will provide stipends up to $500, which will be dispersed by random selection to meet whatever care feels the most supportive to the applicant. So this care may include the things listed here on this slide, like mental health costs, rest and recovery, whatever that looks like, grief and healing, whatever that looks like, body work. And we are currently working on compiling a shared list of body workers and somatic healers in the Northern Illinois region. So at the end of this meeting, we'll share that list. So if you know anyone or are that person, please share your name or their name so we can give some some recommendations for people. And yes, and mobility, accessibility, basically any expense or need that is meaningful to the applicant's well-being. Next slide. Okay, so who can apply? This is for farmers, farm workers, farm laborers, farm hands who are actively farming in the Northern Illinois region and identify as BIPOC, as Black, Indigenous, or person of color. And next slide. So for the region of Northern Illinois, so according to our chapter from the National Young Farmers Standards, this is what we are considered the Northern Illinois region. So we are north of Kankakee and south of the Wisconsin border, and then all the way west until, Illinois ends. And so if you are in this region, you're welcome to apply. And we also want to say that if you are located outside of these boundary lines, but your customers and your communities are within this region, you are still invited to apply. And it's because Chicagoland is such a great region and there's so many large cities in this region. So we know that there's customers and maybe markets or food hubs or food pantries or whatever that looks like for you. If it's inside this region, we still consider you part of our community. And next slide. Yes. Okay. So how the fund will work, the request form will open May 3rd, which is in a few days. And it's a simple Google form that has to be submitted by May 17th. So the form period is May 3rd to May 17th, and it will close May 17th at 11:59. But it's a simple form. I think it would take maybe under 5 minutes, maybe a grace period, 5 or 6 minutes. But it's just your name, where you're coming from, where you're farming, your mailing address, and what you intend to use the fund for, which can be very brief. And then after May 17th, once the fund closes, the selections will be made through a random generator process. And then the nominees will be notified by the end of May. And so we have a certain amount of funding for this cycle. So dependent on what funding each nominee is asking for will depend on how many nominees we can choose. So yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, it will depend on how many nominees we can choose because not everyone might select the full $500, or maybe everyone will, and that's okay too. And then the next step in the process, the nominees will have to submit a W-9 to our fiscal sponsor, which is National Young Farmers. And there is an asterisk there because if there is some reason that you cannot submit a W-9, we have an alternative payment method. And so you'll just have to inquire individually about that. And yeah, so after the W-9 would be sent, the requested funds, which can be up to $500, would be mailed to a paper check to your preferred address. And the next slide, please. Yes, so like I said, the request form, it's intentionally brief and very trust-based. And as a pilot, this being the pilot project and a lot of thought and energy of like, should we this, and at the end of the day, we landed like that it's a mycelial network and every strand matters, and we trust you to decide what is the most meaningful. We trust you to be honest about your identity. We trust you to know what you need. And, we are asking for your trust in us as well. And yeah, we moving with trust, which isn't always easy these days. Next slide. You're right. Okay, so the form opens May 3rd to May 17th. And so it's in a few days. And then, yeah, what's the next slide? Oh, how to support. Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Yeah, so when the form opens and we share all the information about the fund, which we will share on all social media and through emails to our listserv and our networks in the next few days, we ask that you share this care fund with all your local networks and yeah, anyone who could possibly be able to apply. And there's also an option to donate. So donations will help, the fund keep growing and keep flowing. And we hope to do the fund again in the fall. So this will be like our first pilot run. And then we will hope to do it again in the fall around Farmily time. And hopefully keep it going with if donations can, keep the fund flowing. And there is a way to donate from our website, and there's also a donation page on our Instagram bio. And yes, that is where we'll leave now. And I would like to first open it to Jeannie and Ben to see if they have anything else they want to add, and then open to everyone for any feedback or questions that they may have related to the fund. And yeah.
Thank you, Alyssa, so
The only
much.
thing,
Oh, for walking us through that. Go ahead, Ben.
the only thing I was going to add as like a purely logistical thing, and apologies if this was said, but the payment for those that are randomly selected would come in the form of a paper check that goes to an address. So just to be clear, that's how the money comes in. Um, yeah, that's all I'm adding to it.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Um, can I ask a question? Hello?
Yeah, go ahead.
Is this working? I don't think I'm working.
No, it's
Hello?
working.
It's working.
Oh,
We hear
okay.
you.
Two two questions.
Mhm.
I love socialism, so if we could all split the pot up, that'd be sick. Wondering how big the pot might be and how many applicants you guys are expecting.
Alyssa just walked away. But I mean, honestly, we have no idea how many people that we are expecting. Um, we know that Not Our Farm did a fund similar to this recently, and they had to close it sooner than they thought because they had so many applicants. Theirs was for emergency relief. And Yeah. So hoping to like eh, serve as many people as we can in this round. Um, but we just don't know how many it will be. 'Cause it all kind of depends on how much each person asks for and how all the numbers shake out.
Hi, y'all. Could I ask a question as well? Um, I'm in Nevada and we're looking to start a chapter maybe at some point and also have like plans to start a farmer care fund similarly. And yeah, I just have some questions around like, were y'all raising money through donations for this fund? And then like how are you holding on to the money to like disperse it to folks? I mean, we're not super organized or anything, but just like thinking for the future.
Yeah, that's a great question. And awesome to hear that you're starting a fund, another fund in Nevada. We got this funding through a grant. So applied for we applied for a general grant for our whole chapter to get funding, and then this is one of the listed listed items is for this fund. And this idea was born 3 years ago, so we have the funding from I think of 2 years. So because we didn't have the finalized plan, I guess you could say, of how it would before we could launch it. So now we have the funding and we just held it like literally in the bank account. I guess maybe is that the question? But yeah, it was, I think someone mentioned it. It's the Flow grant and it's just a Chicago region grant.
Okay, thanks so much, y'all. Yeah, just we're big dreams hoping for something like this. But yeah, thanks for any information. It's super helpful.
Yeah, and I could add, we got a lot of insight from Not Our Farm and their Farm Worker Emergent Fund, and they were really helpful too for any inquiries we had. Yeah, Stephanie?
Hey, okay. So my question is maybe just like something to think about, maybe more so. And that's just what like with grants and paying out folks and having to submit a W-9, like that does have certain restrictions on certain folks. And just wondering like if that's been considered around like limitations around that. And just more just like I guess a flag. Because if maybe not for this round, something we think about, but just in the future, sustainability wise, we want to expand who we're able to get money out to. Not trying to leave anyone behind.
Yeah, no, that's definitely a great flag. And we personally, our leadership team weren't keen on requesting W-9s, but unfortunately, since we receive our funding through a fiscal sponsor and the money gets paid out through them, they require that. But they are also um, resourceful in the way where they are flexible to not have to pay people through W-9s if like how am I choppily saying this? If people do not want to submit a W-9, we are offering an alternative method and it's just a little less clear. So we can't just mail a paper check, but we will be able to send payment through gift cards. And that is an option. Yeah.
Yeah. And just
Yeah.
like a little bit more context, like there yeah, that's like exactly why, like Alyssa's saying, being fiscally sponsored by them and them requiring this extra paperwork, but we would have gone like full gift card route. But the Washington Farmers Ag Care Fund did that and like ran into a bunch of snafus. So just with like fraudulent, like buying a bunch of gift cards online can like flag you for being fraud. And um there's like additional costs associated with gift cards. And so that's why just some background as to like the information that we gathered about that. And Also, just to name that, like, it's always a little wonky to do mutual aid efforts through like in such a professional, like organizational way. So we're like trying our
Mhm.
best, but inherently those things aren't, I feel like, supposed to be so systematized. And so it just to name that too, like we don't really know what will happen when you take like a mutual aid idea and try to put it through the nonprofit machine, but we're hoping it will.
Yeah.
We're hoping it will still work and maintain some of the mutual aid sentiments.
Yeah, is there any more questions or feedback?
And one thing I'll just add is that if you're somebody that ends up applying but doesn't get it this round because of just the randomness of it, as Alyssa mentioned, we could have done all the money upfront right now, but we also wanted to work out all so that the next round could address if there is a kink. But then also maybe somebody's not around and not aware of the fund right now, and come fall they are aware of it. So in some ways, it's a good thing if we have more applicants than funds for this round because it also shows uh, a real need for this, and we can try to get donations to have even more available come the fall. So like we've thought through a lot of it, but we're trying to be as transparent as we can with you all in the community. But just keep that in mind that there's another fall round coming up. So as you all spread the word to people, if they find out after May 17th, there will still be another opportunity come probably September to apply.
Thank you for that clarification. I have a question. So do the nature of this randomness distribution for, let's say, someone who didn't get the funds the first round, will it be like a drawn or a prioritizing round of those people that want to apply again? Like that who was it? And then maybe they have a list of who didn't get it, and then in the second round they like put their names in a pool of people that reapply, or will it be just put in the same pool of new applicants with the previous applicants? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good question.
Yeah,
I
I mean, it doesn't have to happen, but that would be a good idea maybe to implement.
yeah, I feel like I'm gonna keep that. It's a great idea. For yeah, I guess full transparency, we haven't discussed too much about the second round of funding and what that would look like, but it's definitely something that I would like to consider because yeah, if you're reapplying again because you didn't get it the first time. Yeah, what am I trying to say?
Thank you for
You'll
considering
be
me.
encouraged. Yeah, we wouldn't want, yeah, that you're to feel like you're never gonna get this funding, even if it is a random selection.
Well, I'm kind of curious. I mean, we'll have to move on in a second to our yoga, but I'm just curious, while we have you all here, what do you think? Should somebody who doesn't get selected in the first round be given kind of like priority in the second round, or their name just be put in the hat like everybody else who applies in the second round?
Ooh, the chat is buzzing.
I'm yeah. So for those not able to see the chat, some people suggested that it could be weighted or somehow priority in second round, and a lot of people agreeing with that.
What is quadratic funding? I don't know that.
I like the idea of including the people who had not been selected. And maybe one way to give them more of a priority would be to put their name in twice that second round. So they have more of an opportunity the second time. So each time they're not picked, possibly put it in.
Mm.
But once they receive it, then pull all of their um, apps out.
Interesting. Thanks for sharing that option.
Yeah, it's like giving a weight system. And I am looking at this quadratic funding, and it seems like, just from the little bit I read, it's kind of like a mutual community funding resource, but it's kind of seems like it's also what we're saying, like a weighted system. I'll definitely need to
Well,
look into that
we
more.
put our email in the chat, so definitely if you have, other feedback or questions, reach out to us there. You can also send us a message, Graham. But we will be sending out on the 3rd for the first round. And unless there are other questions, we just want to also make sure that we have enough time to relax our bodies and have Claire lead us in this. And so um, I think we'll just pass it over to Claire unless Alyssa or Jeannie has something else to add. And I know that it'll be useful to make sure you're on mute for the session. And then Claire will tell us any instructions and do a little intro at that. And I'm also going to stop the recording.